So folks, confessing the bug bounty triager. My name's Glenn. I'm a senior cybersecurity specialist at SBG. Try saying that after a few beers. I'm an old school hacker, so old this is an original 2600 t-shirt that's probably older than some of you in the room. Hi Jay. I'm a bug bounty triager. That's one of the more interesting bits of the job. That's the bit I talk about. I wasn't going to explain much about the rest of my job. I was just going to quickly zip through some of the other bits I do. But actually, it does fit lovely with the talk that Saskia did before, in so much that part of my job is acting as a bit of an interface between security and people like our development teams and infrastructure teams, so that they actually get security, so that we can actually fix things earlier on in the process, so we're not just finding out about problems at the actual time of stuff going live, which is exactly what they were saying that we should be doing. So it's nice to actually go on the right side of something. But realistically, my actual main sort of facet at work is I'm just the old guy that yells at cloud. Pretty cloud agnostic. I'll yell at Azure, AWS, GCP. I hate them all equally. Give me tin. Give me non-virtualized environments any day. So, before we get started, I don't know how many of you remember that, the original disclaimer for South Park. I kind of need something similar for this. I've been working on a bug bounty program now for a good couple of years. However, that is only a small part of my knowledge on this. I spend a lot of time talking to other triagers, spent a lot of time talking to pen testers, bug hunting bounters. There's 2 or 3 of you in the room that have been pestered to death by me, asking questions, trying to actually work out what makes you tick, what you want out of a program to make our program better. I also talked to a lot of triagers. One of the things I've not managed to get a lot of feedback from is triagers that work for bug bounty platforms themselves. I tend to be talking to triagers that actually triage straight for the companies. So with all that, take on board that everything I'm about to tell you is a very limited viewpoint. Other opinions may be perfectly valid. We're aware, for good reasons, that our scheme is atypical in some ways. So what works well for us may not have worked quite so well for others, and vice versa. So basically, take it all with a pinch of salt. Oh, and additionally, don't think that any of this is my original work. And I actually came into SBG at just the right time. The bug bounty scheme was already launched. Somebody did a lot of the work, and I'm just riding on their coattails now. I wrote the abstract for this literally after 2 hours sleep, having just taken my OSCP. So I had to actually contact Mark and Chloe and ask them what I'd actually said I was doing it on. And I realised that in the abstract I'd written that there was going to be something for both blue team and red team, for both vendors looking to do bug bounties and for bug bounty hackers, which realised afterwards was a bit of a mistake, but it's what we've got. So I did some slides, wanted something a bit red and blue. So Iron Man, Cap America, works well for me. Let my wife proofread my slides, and she went, "Yeah, it's all right, I get the whole red team, blue team thing, but it's not very you, is it?" So, "What do you mean it's not very me?" She went, "I thought you'd have done sort of more Elmo and Cookie Monster." And it's like, that is genius, I'm having that. And now, my job is so much easier when I think of sort of the red team as Team Elmo and blue team as Team Cookie Monster. That's just my favourite InfoSec thing ever. My wife is a genius at times. So, why do we do it? Why do we get into this whole bug bounty scheme? Saskia before touched on the whole responsible disclosure bit. Vulnerabilities happen, they're out there. Companies like to know about them, ideally before everybody else does. So we'll start off on the red team. Why do the bug bounty people want to do it? Well, according to the 2018, was it, hacker report from HackerOne, top 5 reasons. To learn tips and techniques, fair enough. To be challenged, definitely very challenging. To have fun, can't argue with that. I've started playing at that side of the equation myself, and it's definitely fun. To make money, certainly. I mean, it's a very good way to get a bit of extra cash for yourself. And career advancement. Interestingly, the stat I haven't got on there is that only 3% of people said that one of their major reasons was to show off. That's a lie. Everybody I know, myself included, loves to show off about it. It may not be your primary driver, but hacking's cool. We want to talk about it. So from the blue side of things, from Team Cookie Monster, why do we do it? To cost effectively find vulnerabilities that would otherwise have been missed. That is our primary driver. We are not interested in finding out who the best bug bounty people is, who the best pen testers are. We don't really care that much about the red team. Oh, Andy, you absolute hero, mate. Thank you. That is utterly our main driver for this, is to find those vulnerabilities. and in a cost-effective way. I'll talk a bit later about why, and more importantly, when bug bounties are cost-effective. In some cases, to increase customer or board confidence in your product, it's great to say we are secure. If you can say we are secure and we're putting our money where our mouth is, yeah, you can only win from that. To aid public disclosure, again, you just at the end of your talk, Jay, or end of Saskia's talk, should I say, just mentioned the fact that bug bounty schemes are kind of an extension of responsible disclosure. You've got a bug bounty scheme of responsible disclosure. Kind of has to be an underpinning of that they do that. And finally, no, we don't use bug bounty schemes as a way of paying ransoms. If you don't know what that refers to, go have a read. So, as a blue team, as a triager, the whole point of this talk was to actually give you a view from our side of the fence, because triagers don't talk about it very much. So, what do we care about? And we do care. We do genuinely care. We care about how quickly vulnerabilities can be triaged so we can get on to the next task. We are busy people. Bug bounty triage is a bit like doing customer support, as much that it's fun, it's a lot more interesting, it's a lot more challenging, but realistically, we have a stack of reports to get through. We don't want to spend ages on it. We just want to get on and do the next thing. We care about what the actual risk to the business of the vulnerability is. A large part of our role is actually assessing risk. In fact, pretty much all we do in one way or another is assessing risk in one form or another. So it's looking at your vulnerability, trying to work out just what the actual threat from that is. And there isn't necessarily always a threat. We do get reports like, that's interesting, that's definitely wrong. A coder's definitely made a mistake there. However, the risk to the business is pretty negligible. How long it's going to take a dev to resolve the issue? Like yourselves, you report the bug, we want to see it fixed. And we don't want to see it hanging around for ages. So we're kind of interested in what that time to resolution is going to be. We're also interested in why there isn't a better way of handling duplicates. Duplicates are as annoying for our side of the fence as they are for you. We don't like them anyway, and I've yet to find somebody in the industry that's found a good way of dealing with them. We do genuinely like to keep hackers happy. We're kind of on your side. We do like to keep you happy. However, keeping our bosses happy is much more important, and bear that in mind, that ultimately somebody's paying our check, and we're not going to throw ourselves under the bus to keep you happy. We are there on behalf of the company at the end of the day. So the stuff we don't care about, and there's a lot of this. We don't care about who you are. I've sort of seen things that that big names are favoured in this industry, and whilst there is an element to get invites onto some programs, that's true. But once you're on a program, we, as triagers, we don't care who you are. We don't care if you're a big name or a first-time reporter. We rarely actually bother looking at that. We don't care about the amount of bounty or kudos or rep or whatever you're getting out of this. It's irrelevant to us. Out of all the people I've talked to, nobody is getting pressured to actually minimise their bounty payments. They're pressured to be fair, to be consistent, to make sure that actually nobody can come back and say afterwards, well, why did he get X and he got Y? I've never found anyone actually pressured to keep the money down, despite what some people think. We don't care about the history of the vulnerability class. I do love it when people send in history lessons explaining to me just why cross-site scripting is such a bad thing. It's like, dude, I deal with dozens and dozens of these. Trust me, I know. And we don't really care how clever your hack is or how hard it was to find. It's a bit unfair, actually. We do appreciate a good, clever hack. But realistically, for us getting the job done, it's not a factor. We don't really take into account how much effort you've put into it. We take into account what the actual risk to the business is. If you've stumbled across something because you literally typoed something versus you spending months hammering at something, we're going to just evaluate that and look at the relative risks. And it may be the thing you stumbled across because you typoed something is actually riskier, therefore it's going to get you a bigger payment. So, the basis of this talk is kind of questions that not constantly, but I've been asked over time that are kind of relevant that I wanted to share with you. Came from a conversation with Sean, who may or may not be in the room at DC 151, where I got talking to him about what I didn't realise, that actually bug bounty hunters don't know about our side of the job very much at all. So, question I get asked quite a lot, why doesn't my report get the attention it deserves? I mean, you've dropped something huge on us. You've given us a big vulnerability. Why are we not running around like our hair's on fire? A whole bunch of reasons for it. First one, starting off with a quote from Kate Mazuris. If you're not aware of Kate Mazuris, she's kind of the queen of bug bounty scheme. She was responsible for getting for Facebook's program off the ground, for getting to the DoD and the Air Force, getting their programs off the ground. She kind of wrote the book on bounty hunting. And she's now very forefront ensuring that only the right people start down bug bounty schemes and pointing out they're not right for everybody. And one of her quotes recently is, people are very concerned about vulnerability disclosure, but most organisations aren't ready for them. Absolutely. And it's all to do with flow control. Flow control is your ability as an organisation to take new reports in, to look at them, to evaluate them, to triage them, to get them fixed, to get that deployment live, and then go around that cycle. If you can't do that fast enough, it causes you headaches. So it's quite often with other organisations, and again, this is where I come back to talking to other triagers, because I actually think we do this pretty well. If that flow control is broken, if your flow of data in is faster than your data out, everything gets stuck in the middle, and your bug just gets stuck there because it's just in an ever-growing pile of problems. So, looking for something to try and illustrate this with, imagine that your lovely crafted POC that you've just given me for your awesome vulnerability is that amazing-looking pancake over there. If your flow control is broken in your organisation when it comes to bug bounty triage, this is what happens, and I hope this works because I love this. Is that actually going to play? No! Ah! Can I make it play? Can I make it play? What does that say? Pause.
Hey, look what I found! More pancakes!
Let's speed it
So,
up.
imagine your pancake, and that is what we're doing.
Pancake, pancake, pancake. Eat, little buddy. Eat.
Ralph, you might want to try feeding the kitty for a little while.
No, the kitty gets the milkshake. The bunny gets the pancake.
And when your pipeline doesn't work, that exploding pink bunny is a dev team, and I've talked to people that have had them happen to. If you can't get that flow through, then your pancake is just going to be lost in a huge pile of other people's pancakes. So, that's one reason that your report may not get the attention it deserves. Second one, ease of triage. Thankfully, because of our program, I'll talk a little bit about our program stuff later on, but our program, we get a really good signal to noise. We don't get a lot of rubbish reports, but talking to other triagers, they get some absolute dross. So what we want is something like that. We're generally technical people. We generally get what we're looking at. Give me a curl command. Give me something like that. I can go, I do what that's doing. I can, go and replicate that in a second. Beautiful proof of concept. That's what I want. What we tend to get is that somebody spending 16 pages explaining where CSRF is a bad thing. It's like, So, obviously, famous series of books, or 2 books now in the industry, POC or GTFO applies here. POC or GTFO. You feel free to give me all the information in the world that you want, but if you can get me a nice sort of simple curl command or something beginning to replicate, I'm going to look at that first. And as I said before, this is a lot like customer support. If you can pick and choose the reports you do, you're going to choose the easy ones. You're going to choose the ones that you've already got a nice simple POC for, not one where you have to read an essay before you get going. 3, lack of visibility. Good, right, there's nobody from SPG in here that's, other than Patrick. I was about to say, other than, we've got some of our brass here today, and I really didn't want them to see something, because, again, this is something that we've got really right, but I've seen done really badly. So, I've worked in small companies before. The path from sort of report coming in to fix is this in a small company. Literally wander over, tell the dev it's wrong, dev goes fix. Anybody recognise where that's from, by the way? Hey! Fantastic. Thought they really get that. So, but that didn't actually queue up right. In reality, in big organisations, what can sometimes happen, he says, talking to get the slide back to the beginning of the process again, is that you write up your little report, you do your little Homer Simpson bit that I'm desperately filming to get to, you send off your report, and goes off into some huge corporate structure, never to be seen again, only to be eaten by beavers. So sometimes the reason that your triager isn't talking to you, isn't giving you updates, is because they've sent their report off into the system of tubes and they're just not hearing back on it. Prioritisation. Prioritisation is hard. A large part of my job is prioritisation. And some of the guys down here, a large part of their jobs. I'm getting actually people to work on the right things is tough. So you've dropped this awesome thing on you. You think you found something really serious that and you think, this is what's happening. They're running around trying to put out the fire. This is, they're really caring about my thing. Whereas in reality, what's actually happening, I think you guys probably know what's coming. You've reported your one thing, you're only aware of your one thing, you've no idea whether we're dealing with one thing like that or hundreds. Also prioritisation, even if you convince us that it's important and we're running around like headless chickens. Steve's not in here, is he? I was going to thank Steve Davis for this slide. What can happen sometimes in bigger organisation is an org chart that looks like that, where we get the fire, but actually conveying the importance of that fire through the organisation is kind of tough. Again, something that we do pretty well. I'm quite proud of that, but I've seen other places do that dreadfully. Another reason about attention, we might actually care. We might just not be able to tell you why we can't tell you anything. Additional mitigations, silent alarms, things like that. There are certain things in there. For example, if your activity triggers one of, an anti-money laundering thing, there's actual legal issues there with telling somebody that they've triggered an anti-money laundering process. Similar when I worked in sort of chat filtering for a while, there was all sorts of things where the chat would be let go, but it would be informing moderators to actually go and start digging into things. So it may well be, just because you've managed to pull something off, it may be that something's actually happened as planned in the background. It's just not necessarily reported to the user that it's happened. The rest of these are kind of just things that happen sometimes in big organisations that I can't generally defend, but it's the way organisations work. Sometimes resources are tied up fixing other things. Sometimes fixing the risk of, the cost of fixing it outweighs the risk of leaving it. Things get due for decommission. Putting the effort into something that's about to be turned off, it's very hard to convince people to do that. Sometimes it's nobody's responsibility. Again, I've worked places where this has happened, that literally a team's written a thing, that team's got disbanded and split into different bits of the company, and the code is just sat there ephemeral and trying to get somebody to own something that nobody's ever touched before. It's very hard to do. Source code has been lost, not a personal one, but I've talked to people where that's happened. Literally, to fix a small vulnerability would have required rewriting the entire application because they no longer had the source for it. Last time it was modified, it wouldn't reboot. Again, people have told me of situations like that where it's just so flaky they have to leave it running and don't touch it. Third parties being rubbish. There are a whole list of reasons that vulnerability information may be sat with a triager and he can't really tell you why he can't tell you anything. So, to actually get some attention, a few quick summaries. Simple query reports that get to the point. We love simple reports. We hate essays. Part of that, POC or GTFO. Build relationships. Come and talk to us. As book back triagers, we actually love talking to hackers. Actually, ask us for more info on things. We can't necessarily give you away company secrets, but we may tell you that a certain thing you're looking at is protected by something or other. Or we may be able to tell you that it's that actually that code's using this library. So if you're looking for a problem, if you think you found a WAF bypass, we may say, well, actually, we're just using that one over there. Go look at that open source project. So talk to us. I say we can't give away company secrets, but it's amazing what we can tell you. Patience. We're sort of, we care what we're doing, but it's still a job. We're not doing this 24/7, 365. I know some bug bounty people that seem to be doing it 24/7, 365. Some of the Twitter streams I follow, you look at these guys, people in general, and you see sort of 36 hours of Twitter reports going on. Oh, hit this. I was like, where did you find to eat, sleep, or bathe in the last 48 hours? It just, we're not like that. I like to go home and see my wife and son of an evening. So, that was a bit question one. Why don't we get the attention reserves? Question number two, and I've had this a few times and I love answering it. We see a lot of bounty hunters that have never worked out in industry. They've never been developers. They're very, very good at what they do, but they've never been on our side of the fence or a developer side of the fence and seen that sometimes bad code gets into production for sometimes bad reasons, sometimes good reasons. So, when people sort of say, dude, this is obvious. This is like simple XSS. How on earth did this make it to production? And again, tying into the earlier talk, it's not excusing some of this stuff, but it's kind of explaining where it comes from. Sometimes the risk is worth it. Sometimes, the entire, all the factors that go into getting an application live. Security is only one of those. It's all risk-based. Sometimes the risk of cross-site scripting is worth the risk of getting it out there. Again, another Katie Mazuris example that I love is a disagreement she had over a hacker that had found a database, open creds, and she wouldn't pay on it. And the whole point was, yes, it was a database. Yes, there was no authentication on it. However, it was a read-only database with public data in it. Sure, it looks bad. It's not something that everyone would ever hold up and say, this is good practice. But realistically, the impact from that was zero. So sometimes the impact is so small that the business will make a decision to just roll with it. An attitude of next time do better without going back and worrying about last time. We're all evolving, we're all getting better at coding. You'll suddenly realise the right way to do things. Any of you that have been down that development path, you get better all the time. How often do you think, actually, I now understand, say, the value of store procedures or something like that? Do you go back and look at the code you wrote 2 years ago and retrofit that? Yeah, you'd make sure you get it right next time. And because of that, because software doesn't tend to go away, old stuff never gets fixed, it never gets improved. Greenfields are easy, brownfields are a nightmare. If you're writing something from scratch, it's a lot easier to make sure you get it right. If you're trying to build something on top of somebody else's cruddy app that doesn't really work, that relies on a 3-year-old version of Java, or it stops working and doesn't use TLS, if you're building something on top of that, you may be stuck with their bad decisions, in which case you're just going to be polishing a turd. Not all software development life cycles are equal. It may well be that bits of your company are great. The people that are doing development day in, day out, it may be that they've got this absolutely nailed. And then suddenly you get something like a marketing team or something like that. They can do a bit of HTML, and suddenly they find out that their CMS allows you to do custom JavaScript in there. And off they go and bypass all your SDLCs and all your best practice, and suddenly you're paying out thousands in bounties for cross-site scripting in a platform you didn't even know you got. So, none of these are excusable, but they do happen. Question number 3, why the hell does it take so long to get paid? Again, we're quite lucky, we're atypical, we pay on triage. We know in the industry paying on triage is rare. I think our decision to pay on triage is brilliant, and I wish more people did it, but like many things, we're not the 90% use case on this. So why does it take so long to get paid? Big companies are notoriously slow to release money. If you've ever worked at a small company that's trying to get money out of a big company, it takes forever. This is not just a bug bounty thing. This is right across the industry. Big companies hold on to money as long as possible, just as a matter of course. It's not they're desperate for money. It's just the way business works. However, bug bounty platforms don't work on credit. They want the money up front, and you can probably already see why these two things don't work together. Predicting the rate your funds will be burnt through is really hard. So you've got a slow drip feed of money over there and an actual live feed of money being eaten over there. So you've got to predict quite often a month or two in advance how fast that money is going to burn down. Which, if you're sort of paying for AWS hosting, is easy because you've got a price list. If you're paying out bug bounties, you may pay sort of a couple of $100 over 3 weeks and then get hit for about $8,000 in 48 hours. So it's really, really hard to manage that flow, to actually make sure that there's always money in when the reports are coming in. Payoff, again, one that doesn't impact us, but pay on fixed. What happens if it's never going to get fixed? That must be a nightmare. The fact, if you're reporting stuff to a company and then they're looking at it thinking, well, we could fix it. And for all the reasons I mentioned earlier, they're not actually intending fixing that. What happens? Do you not actually get paid on it? And yeah, pay on triage, which I love, does require a level of trust. If you don't trust your people taking part in your bug bounty program, then we've got a problem. I wanted to do a lot more with LoRa Radio today. I allotted a big chunk of last weekend to do that. I got a chance to do none of it because I spent most of the weekend teaching myself GIMP because I couldn't find a better image to represent Bling. I actually had a picture of Macklemore there at one point, but I decided that, I'd bling up Mark. And then realised that's probably unfair because I can't actually think of anybody less blingy and money orientated than Mark, but I'm quite proud of that. I quite enjoyed doing that. So, how do you maximise what you get paid? Hello? That's not... Oh, it's my doorbell. Somebody's at my door at home. All the things to be distracted by. Maximise getting paid. Demonstrate risk. Going back to what I was saying before, we don't care about how clever your hack is. We don't care about how long it took. We do care about risk. So come up with examples that actually demonstrate risk. As an attacker, as a techie, we all understand with JavaScript, it's great. You can pop an alert box. We know that alert box kind of then means you own the client. Anything that's on the client's there. But it doesn't really demonstrate the risk very much. However, if you actually demonstrate it to steal SSO tokens and then transform that simple XSS into an account takeover because you've managed to log in as somebody else by doing it, that's really easy to convince the risk. When you're a company that actually deals with credit card all the time, and you can show that from a simple XSS you can get to somebody's credit card, that's real risk to demonstrate. Say, remember that we don't care about the cleverness, we do care about the risk. Understand what matters to your target. Ties into that. Not all companies care about the same kinds of risk. Reputational compliance, regulation, data breach, data integrity, we all care about different things. So understand who you're reporting to and understand what scares them. What are they absolutely terrified about? Are they terrified about having that data breach, or are they scared about having all their customers' accounts rinsed? It may not actually affect what you get paid. I mean, most bug bounty payment schemes are quite prescriptive, but it might well get your fix quicker. And if it's a pay-on-fix scheme, being paid quicker is a definite good thing. And finally, think about code reuse. If that vulnerability has made it onto that website, a developer's screwed up. If that company haven't got a nice system to feed that knowledge back into their software development lifecycle, and I'll come on to that a bit later, then that mistake will be keeping made over and over again. So if you found a vulnerability in a certain area of the site, look to think, where might that same team have been doing that same thing, and poke. And it may well be that your one vulnerability you found over there, you can find 200 of it over there. And if the scheme's structured right, that's 200 times the payment. And again, good relationship rules. You can't bribe us. You can try, especially with sweets, but it doesn't generally work. In fact, with coffee, but we can actually help for extra info. We can actually, we're not against you. We're not battling with you. We want to find out those vulnerabilities. If we can give you information that isn't going to screw anybody over, to give you extra information without affecting the business, we'll happily do it. Number 5. It's not a new program. Why should I bother? This is one that's come from my experience a bit that I've now started asking a lot of other people about. Our program was internal only for the longest time. I would do for time. Apparently I've been going 3 seconds. That's not very good, is it? Clock. Well, I'm not going on. I've got the wall there. So, as we've moved from an internal program where the only people that could report vulnerabilities are people that actually work for us, we've now started inviting a few externals on it. And the first few people that I've invited, people that I've been known for years, have been doing bug bounty schemes and making money out of them. And quite a few of them have looked at the scheme, spent sort of 2 or 3 hours and gone, nah, you didn't find very much, and then we'll move on and go and find a different target. At the moment, I'm seeing a lot of that. There's a lot of people that go, actually, you guys have done an okay job of hoovering up the low-hanging fruit. It's actually not worth my time on me spending your time on your program. I can go over that program over there and just sort of hoover up XSSs for fun, and doesn't really matter where you get them from. So we do get that. It's actually just like, why should I bother? Well, there are a few reasons why you should bother. Company like ours, 100 plus code deployments a day. That's a hell of a change in landscape. 100 plus chances a day that somebody screwed something up. 5,000 servers, just one bit of our platform. Last time I could find data for it, and this was like about 18 months ago, had got 1,300,000 lines of code in it. That's a lot of scope for people getting things wrong. Cutting edge technologies can move faster than security. Some of my colleagues down here, one of the problems we have is we're in a company that is encouraged to use cutting edge tools. We're sort of always using the latest and greatest things, which is fantastic for developers. It means that we can attract some amazing developers because they get to play with some great stuff. But it means that we somehow have to be ahead of them. And whilst we're, I said at the very beginning, I like old-fashioned bits of tin with simple web servers on them rather than sort of ephemeral Kubernetes clusters. But if with tin with a simple VM on it, maybe running PHP, we've got an absolute boatload of tools that are part of the SDLC that have been tried and tested over decades to make sure that crap code doesn't go out the door. For the newer stuff, that tooling isn't as mature where it's available at all. Sure, we've got internal tools, but it hasn't got all those years of being tested. So it means that the scope for actually new and interesting vulnerabilities coming out is a lot wider. So focus on the new stuff, focus on the actual cutting edge stuff. Again, if one of the interesting things that somebody's told me a few weeks ago is that they were doing OSINT at our company. They were looking at the tech talks we were doing to get an understanding for what tech we were using. The fact that we were going out and talking about our use of things like Kafka and Kubernetes and stuff like that. It's like, right, so you guys use it. And it was giving them a heads up. So actually go and dig in at the company a bit more. We use the same tools you do to think out the box. Yeah, coming back to the low-hanging fruit thing, if you're just going to hit us with a bunch of off-the-shelf tools, you know what? We've probably already got those built in SDLC already. You're going to find nothing with them. We've kind of screwed up if you do. Unless Rob is in the room, who's actually rinsed quite a lot of people recently with a relatively off-the-shelf tool. But yeah, it doesn't take a lot to actually raise yourself above that level of people that are just using automated tools. Remember the how the hell does this get into production thing that I did a few minutes ago? Those things do happen. Bad code makes it live. Don't assume that companies are perfect at putting out good code. And that train door there is a perfect example. Somebody decided that was a good idea. Somebody decided that the optimal way to make a door only not accidentally come open during the train movement was to lean out the window. People make really daft decisions. So, winning for time. Woo, not too bad. Right, so anybody idea what this next section is going to be? I thought it was obvious. Some takeaways. Got to get at least one dad joke in there. So, back to Cookie Monster and Elmo again. Starting off with Team Cookie Monster. Some things for the companies out there that are actually thinking of getting into this game, because I put it in the abstract and really wish I hadn't. When are you ready to start a pen test scheme? And again, people like Kate Mazuris do this far better than me. Go and read her stuff. But to give you an idea, people like HackerOne downstairs, they are great. They will tell you how they can make your life easier. They will give you some guidance about how you're ready. However, to me, if you can't answer these questions with the right answer, you've got better ways of finding those vulnerabilities, more cost-effective ways than a bug bounty scheme. Fix those first and then go down and talk to them about signing up to one of their programs. So, are good pen tests not finding you next to nothing anymore? And by good pen tests, I mean a skilled tester that you put inside your perimeter and give them an open scope. If they're coming back and going, find much, you're probably at the stage. If you're just going, I'm secure because I once a quarter for PCI let some sort of trained monkey with Nessus just scan it and post me the Nessus results, then that's not a pen test. Do you have a good, strong SLD with good code auditing? If you don't have a good, strong SDLC, software development lifecycle, if you literally just shoveling code out the door without any real checks on it, and you're not doing code audits, you will get more value at this stage of your maturity with fixing that before messing around with bug bounty schemes. Do you already have a good working and practice vulnerability disclosure process? If you don't, fix that first. Before you even think about bug bounty schemes, you should be able to simulate taking a report from a member of the public about a vulnerability they found on your site and swiftly and efficiently watch that go from this report through to that live fixed code without it getting stuck in the middle. If you can't demonstrate that you can do that, you're not at the stage yet where this is going to really help you. All you're going to do is pay a load of money to find a load of information you can't actually handle. Can you triage quickly enough? One of the big problems that a lot of people I've talked to when they triage this is that when they start their scheme, they open the floodgates and suddenly they've just got a huge stack of incoming problems that they can't actually manage quick enough. As a company, one of the reasons that we stayed as an internal-only scheme, so the only people that could report to us were our own staff, we did that to actually make sure that we'd got all the resources in place to be able to actually triage stuff quickly enough without just having a big, bit like the mythical, a pile of bills coming in, just a pile of vulnerability reports. Similarly, can you fix quick enough? If you can't fix this data isn't that much use. I mean, sure, you can appreciate the risk a bit better if you've seen the vulnerabilities and ranked them, but realistically, if none of this stuff's actually going to get fixed, if you haven't got a good enough development process that you're taking these reports and actually getting fixed code from it, again, it's just an expensive way to find out a little bit of risk data. And do you have a process that ensures that all this data is fed back into your SDLC so the same mistakes aren't made repeatedly? Very similar thing. if you haven't got that, if you're literally just collecting vulnerabilities and fixing them, this is going to be a very, very expensive way of doing pen tests. And rubbish pen tests at that, because they're completely open and will never get the things you want to. You need to be able to make sure that when you get those reports in, that you haven't just fixed that vulnerability, you fixed the problems in your process that led to that vulnerability getting live on the website. If you can say, actually, got one there. Oh yeah, and can you achieve steady, sustainable growth and put the brakes on if needed? One of the big things that I see from people that have really struggled with schemes like this is when they've gone, right, bug bounty, big press launch, we have a bug bounty. Even worse, we have a public bug bounty scheme. And then suddenly the floodgates are open, they've got 1 million reports, and it's like, whoa, we can't cope with this, but however, we've just told the press we're doing it, and we can't stop and we can't slow this down, help, we're drowning. My advice on this, do what we did. Start small, start internal only, then grow. I'd invite a few more so you can actually control that growth, so that when problems do go wrong with your process, when you can't keep up, you can actually go to the people that you're working with and say, actually, guys, we screwed up the money this month. It's going to be a month or two before you actually get your bounty money because our payment pipeline wasn't right. Or, oh, yeah, glad you've raised that vulnerability, but you're not going to see that fixed for a while because we realised that the people that own that code aren't ours, therefore we probably shouldn't have scoped it. So you can fix all those sort of things early on before you let the masses on your scheme. Final tips for Team Cookie Monster. Be 100% sure you're ready to launch and ensure that you have the resources. I'm just going to say the same things here, I think. Make sure bug bounty issues push back in your SDLC. Pay on triage as possible, just because that's nice. So I think pay on fix is very nice. Grow slowly and control way to make sure the money keeps topped up. Considering an internal launch first. Talk to hackers, be as open as possible. Have a clear and concise payment structure. Absolutely do that. I mean, one of the things we learned from our launch is that we initially went with a menu-based payment structure that just basically XSS $250, RCE $1,000, that sort of thing. And we find that didn't actually really work for us because that didn't really build risk into it in any way. And so we switched to a CVSS-based system, which, whilst not perfect, is a lot better. There we go. Have a system that ensures hacker to pay swiftly, because nothing's more annoying than a hacker that actually thinks they're owed money and isn't getting it. I know, I have to answer their emails. Make sure your triagers are technically proficient. Don't treat this as a customer service thing. Don't give it your tech desk. It takes actual skilled people to be able to understand triage and prioritise this properly. I know these are hard to find. We've had empty job roles to come on the team that the three of us are on there for this for a while. So if you think you can do it, come talk to me. Recruitment are going to love me for that, for getting a plug-in. Thing was, I hadn't even thought about that before, and I could have done that properly rather than winging it. Make sure your program results in properly prioritised vulnerabilities by risk, not just cost. It's really, really easy to fall in the trap of fixing the most expensive bugs first. If that isn't aligned with risk, you're doing it wrong. You should be fixing the riskiest stuff first. So, some things for Team Elmo. Don't assume mature programs don't have findings yet. Oops. Talk to your triagers. Check those stats. Talk to your own community. Sean from Bug Bounty Notes may not be here. Oh, next to Robbie, you're both there. And Bug Bounty Forums, a few other places. Actually, talk to each other about programs. Find out there what's worth being on and what isn't. If your workplace is ready, talk to your workplace about launching a scheme. I appreciate a lot of bounty hunters aren't in bigger organisations, but if you are, see whether you're ready for that internal launch for your own thing, because it's a really good way of kickstarting your career into bug bounty hunting if you can start on an internal program. Common advice for bounty hunters: everything that I've read seems to be go deep. However, my experience, and to be fair, thing that I've just read from Katie the other day, is actually it seems that the top people, the people that are making the money of this, are going wide, not deep. These two chaps here are my proof of that as well. The fact that they're a very wide range of sites rather than just rinsing a couple of them for everything they've got. Remember from that slide at the beginning, remember to learn, be challenged, have fun, make money, and grow those careers, and show off a bit. Cool. Almost hit that on time as well. You've not waved cards at me or anything. I'm quite impressed. Did you? I didn't see. I've been too busy looking at that to remind myself where I'm looking at, rather than looking at the audience. So, folks, that was me. That's a guided tour of the life of the bug bounty triager. Any questions? Jump over there.
I know these help towards the end of the slides. But do you have any advice / help for anyone looking to get into this?
Caveat, a disclaimer on the front of that. I'm the wrong side of the fence to answer that. So there are quite a few bounty hunters here who may or may not choose to put their hands up and sort of say, come talk to us. I've started dabbling in that side, partly as an actual bit of an experiment myself, because I'm kind of interested, so I wanted to see how easy it was to get into. There are lots of stories about getting over that initial hump to get onto the private programs being quite hard, and I want to actually see for myself how hard that is. Ultimately, there are thousands of public programs out there. Have a go, just see what you can find. In fact, it was a discussion with Sean at DC 151, one of our local groups, a few months ago, where I sort of raised this, and you basically said, no, there's stuff on public programs, you find stuff on public programs all the time, so don't believe this nonsense that public programs have been rinsed to death. There is still stuff on them. If you're looking for ways to actually get a little bit of a leg up, talk to triagers, go talk to us, see if you can plug your way onto a few schemes. I noticed the other day HackerOne's CTF now actually also offers you invites to schemes, because I realised people have been invited to our scheme at work based on that rep alone, so there are a few other ways into that, but realistically, give it a go. In fact, even better advice, bugbountynotes.com. Go and jump on the forum there. Go ask those guys, because you've got some very, very talented guys that have actually done it rather than me that just looks at it. Any more? Go.
It's not a question, but you said you have problems with the duplicates.
Mm-hmm.
There is another platform which is stack.com, and they disclose the endpoints that were found vulnerable, so they clearly tell hunters, okay, we found XSS here, so don't report that, or there was SQ injection here, so don't even go there, don't report it again, because we already know about it. It hasn't been fixed, but we know about it.
It's an interesting idea, that. I mean, I can see why that would work from the hunter's point of view. Going to my bosses at work and actually saying, we're going to disclose endpoints that we know we've got vulnerabilities on might not fly. But I appreciate, that's the age-old problem, is that it's a case of how do you tell people not to waste time on something without telling them, hey, there's something to see over there. But it's an interesting idea, is that. I'll have a look at that, because I haven't really, it's not a platform I've done much with. It's mainly been HackerOne and BugCrowd.
Yeah, it's used also by a couple of bands.
Right.
So they're probably quite good, and not everybody can be on the platform. So you have to go through an interview process. So send documents and stuff. So
I must admit the concept of an NDA'd bug bounty scheme got raised by something I read the other day, which is, I don't know quite how I feel about that, but it certainly got me thinking, and I do wonder whether that's a future stage of bounty hunting we're likely to see, sort of a step up from the private program with, as in a private program with NDA. Patrick, I'm not going to like this, am I?
You might do. So I suppose we talked a lot about launching an internal bug bounty scheme in your company. Is there a conflict of interest between the devs writing the code and then offering them bounties to do it? How do you manage that?
See, I predicted that. I always predict that question. The fact it's come with somebody I work with, it's not going to look like a setup, it's going to look like a stooge, because I actually have that slide. Oh, God, he says, killing his slides. I actually have... Where's the pointer gone? Oops. I actually have that slide on the end for that, because everybody always asks about that. And so it doesn't seem like there's somebody that actually knows my thoughts on this asks it. Yes, the question we get asked about a lot. To me, it's an absolute non-issue. If you're hiring developers that would raise bugs and then report them for bounty, you've got an HR problem. You've got a hiring problem, not a technical bug bounty program. Even if you go one stage further and sort of do the whole, two people colluding, person A raises and person B fixes them. Because we do have a rule in our place that you can't report issues with any code you've actually worked on. So it would technically be possible to get to two people colluding, but where you've got collusion, you've got conspiracy, and where you've got conspiracy, you've got an extra risk. Are you going to do that for a couple of $1,000 in bounty payments? Probably not. But yes, technically, absolutely, but it is always something everybody asks. Any more for any more? camera dude. Sorry.
You said that pay on triage requires more trust than pay on.
Yes.
I'm probably stupid.
Some of the logic behind why companies prefer pay on fix is that there is an incentive for the hacker to keep that knowledge private until they've been paid. However, if you're allowing people on the scene on your scheme that the only thing that's stopping them disclosing that vulnerability is the promise of money, again, you're probably attracting the wrong hackers. I kind of get technically why you'd do it, but it seems not. But yeah, exactly that. It literally is a case that it's a contract, and they think, they're going to keep the mouth shut for a few $100s. But yeah, that's why. So, anyone else? Cool. You get a second question, go for it, yeah.
A lot of this might be slightly your reading, but a lot of the time you look on the internet and you realise something's horribly broken. So you say that you hate it when people treat you like an idiot because you're a bright guy and you can understand the expert. A lot of the time when you try and contact companies, they're really not. You don't have an internal IT team. All you're trying to do, sort of from my point of view, is like, guys, it's horribly broken. Here, you need to know about it so you can fix it. But how do I put that across to them in a way that doesn't just get them access?
That's a great question, and my only experience of that is on the other side of the fence, because obviously I've been lucky enough to work somewhere where we haven't got that problem, where we have got teams that are trained to deal with that. But yes, I've reported stuff myself in exactly that situation, that because I'm technical, because I can explain at a technical level what's wrong with the site, and you realise it's just some guy that's thrown up a WordPress blog that has followed some tutorial from 8 years ago, and so, if this doesn't work, mod 777 everything. Oh, it works. It's tough, and I haven't got a good answer for that. And if anybody has, let me know. I mean, I like to think I'm good at that. Part of my job is explaining technical security concepts to, not saying non-technical, but certainly to non-security people. So dumbing stuff down to a level that people can work with is kind of what I do. But yeah, it is tough, and I don't know. Actually, I suppose to give you an answer on that, all the way back to the beginning, don't focus on the technical vulnerability, focus on the risk. Focus on what the actual consequence of that vulnerability could be, rather than, hey, you screwed your permissions over or whatever.
Go to the DPO generally, it doesn't always look wrong.
There you go. Emil. Hello.
Also, it's not a question, it's just another suggestion to go on what you've just been saying about risk. Also, the remediation information really helps and will help you get things sooner as well. So if you could put something in there that just says, this is the problem, this is how to reproduce it, I suggest this fix. They might not use that suggestion, but if they do, then it'll be quicker, and it should be quicker.
Certainly for our internal schemes, that pays a dividend, because internally people have got access to the source and they actually understand the estate and the platform, how things work together. That is a massive win. When you look down there and think, oh, yeah, I get that. And somebody says, by the way, this system over here, what you've done is screwed this thing up. It's like, great, I can throw that at the dev team. They're going to look at it, validate it, and go, yep, you're right, that fix is going to work. And have it out the door really quickly. Whereas sometimes if we go, there's a thing over there and it's wrong, they'll look at it and go, don't know why it's doing that. Worked all right when it was on a dev box, must be Kubernetes problem. But yeah, the actual cluster remediation can be a big help. Cool. Oh, also sneaked in. I missed that. He wasn't here earlier when I was talking about the money, was he? Cool. Right. No more questions. Thank you very, very much for that.